And now to Capitol Hill. Joining us, Senator Shelley Moore Capito. She's the chair of the Senate Republican Policy Committee. We're going to break when I was saying, well, I guess we're going to Senator. I was pretending I was on Ozempic or something.
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah, I was pretending I was like mad. Nothing. I'm actually, since I'm not on it, I'm very excited to have you here today, Senator. Thank you, because we have a lot. I mean, we probably have the same three issues to talk about, don't we? That your life revolves around right now. Hopefully, your work life. Hopefully, there's other things for all of us. But Iran, I guess, DHS, and I guess just the overall mood in the country with midterms coming up. Let's start with Iran. It seems like about 2 weeks ago there was a deceleration, or at least a pullback, and the stock markets responded to it. Oil has responded to it, even though it's still above 90. But is something positive in the works in your view?
In my view, absolutely. I mean, we've defanged Iran in terms of their ability to missile launch, their navy to operate, and they are a much more weakened nation. But I think the president wants to finish the job, and I think he should. And I think the blockading of the strait of vessels going in and out of Iran has proven to be very successful. I mean, that's a big squeeze on them financially, and also with their partnerships around the world. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I think the president has said he doesn't want a long-term engagement here, and I think he's moving towards an end. And I did read this morning that there's going to be some subsequent negotiations in Pakistan, and I think that's a good sign, because getting back to the table is where we're going to find the solutions.
You know, Senator, I don't know what we can accomplish through diplomacy or negotiations with Iran, but it was odd. Saudi Arabia a couple weeks ago was there were reports that they were urging the United States on to finish the job, and let's once and for all, let's make the Middle East a better place. Now they feel the economic effects, and they're urging reportedly urging the Trump administration to start ending things. And I see that argument here as well, that we've gone this far. If we don't get rid of the 900 pounds of uranium, if we don't do some of the things that the early objectives that we were aiming for, then it's not complete. It's like half finished. Which is right?
Well, I do believe that the enriched uranium is a source of major concern. That is one of the reasons that we went in. We knew that they were close, and in some reports already there. And so I think the president has a big decision to make here. And what are the risks involved with doing that? We have obviously incredible intelligence over there, but obviously those nations are disrupted, and they want to see an end. But they also know that a nuclear Iran is not in their best interests. So I think the president will be aggressive like he has been up to this point, and I don't know if he's going to make the move to go in for the enriched uranium, but I can bet you the plans are in the formulating, if not already in the training phase.
Senator, shifting gears, what have you been arguing or pushing your colleagues to do? Which stance on DHS on how to reopen that part of the government? Should Republicans say, okay, you're right, we need a lot of these reforms, let's do that, or let's fund parts of DHS and we won't fund ICE, or should we call it for what it is? I mean, you point out here, Democrats continue to support anti-ICE efforts, and there's a gentleman running for governor. I guess there's an opening out there now with Swalwell gone, but Steyer running, saying we're going to put ICE agents in jail. We're going to defund ICE. We're going to abolish ICE. I saw a list of things that he was running on yesterday. It was like, what country? How did we get to this place? How did we get to this point after 10 million illegals were obviously let in during the Biden administration? Welcome.
Well, I think embedded in the Democrat Party is an anti-law enforcement rhetoric. And it's not just rhetoric, it's policy that they want to move forward to defund. We're not going to let them do that. And so it's unfortunate we are where we are. We shouldn't have to pull out Border Patrol and ICE out of the DHS bill. But remember, we struck a deal with the Democrats more than a month ago that basically had reforms in there, more cameras, more oversight, better training, all de-escalation, and all these things Republicans were part of a deal that we struck, and they pulled out from it. And so now you know what they've got? No reforms. We have a very disgruntled Department of Homeland Security. I know, going through my own hometown TSA, even though they're getting paid, they're very unhappy, and I don't blame them because of the uncertainty that they've had. And so I think the best thing we're going to do is go to this skinny bill, as referred to by the leader, where it's going to have just funding for ICE and Border Patrol. We'll fund it for 3 years, take it off the table, because we feel the Democrats are never going to want to have the security at the border that we know is quite necessary. And I think it's not a good place where we are, but they've brought us a problem, and you know what? We're going to solve it, and I think we're going to do it as quickly as we can, which would mean before Memorial Day.
A skinny bill in the Senate or the House, is it possible? And don't immediately people start looking at ways of putting their own priorities in? I saw Senator Kennedy the other day. He has all these like expressions. For somebody said something about it. What a skinny bill. There's no such thing. Or he's been around here long enough to know that that's not going to be the case. Is it possible to do it? And would it have enough support to pass?
Honestly, the impression that I have, for those who've talked to the president, this is the direction that he wants to go, that he knows, because it's the land of the possible. We've got to get this funded, and we've got to get it so we can move on to other things. You ask about what other things are we doing. I can tell you one thing I'm working very hard on is permitting reform. This is a bipartisan, I think, major legacy-setting initiative that I'm leading the charge on, that if we can do this, we can build, expand, economy grows, all these kinds of things. We've got to get Homeland Security funded, and we've got to get the good folks that work there and are in our law enforcement know that they have the security and the certainty that they're going to be able to work and do their job without any impediments. And so there's lots that we want to do that's behind a lot of these kind of stumbling blocks that the Democrats have thrown in front of us. They don't want to, move forward, because then you get into number 3, what you said, what's going to happen in the elections. And it's all about the elections for them.
Right. But Republicans got to be thinking tactically, I'm sure, as well. And I've seen articles written that, that talking about tax refunds being larger, talking about some of the other provisions of the OBBA, talk about that. But there is sort of a concern about the war's impact on affordability. What do you, and suddenly the Senate, there are some Cauchy poly-market numbers that are even calling the Senate into question at this point. What do Republicans hope to do or to happen to minimize what could be losses in the House and the Senate in November?
Well, I think every election is about pocketbook issues. It's about the cost of gas, the cost of food. Look at what happened in 2024. That's how President Trump got elected, because the Biden administration kept trying to, whitewash what was really going on in the economy. I mean, that mom with 2 kids going to the grocery store knows exactly how much she pays for groceries every single week. And so if it's not working for them, they're going to make a change at the ballot box. So I think the Senate is going to be just fine. I think we'll retain the majority, and I think we have possibilities of picking up. But the Iran situation is, because it hits one of those items that families see every week, which is gasoline prices, and it's prominently displayed as you drive through your neighborhoods and you see the local gas station. You can't help but notice what's the price today, and so I think these are critical issues. That's why I think the shortness that the president has, or the constriction of the Iran situation, will be very helpful, and I think we can then see what's happened with the working families tax cut, which is greater refunds, wages going up, more people taking child tax credits, more people taking advantage of the child care possibilities. So there's a lot of good news out there, but it's getting buried under the economic stagnation that I think we see. So we put this bill into place to eliminate that. We've got some stumbling blocks in front of us. We want to clear those out so we can move into the summer and things will be better.